You know, one of the biggest problems we got here is sometimes we're far too busy for the amount of space we've got. Especially today, we've got a lot of regulars in for their spring maintenance, so the place is going to be packed.
The biggest challenge in this kind of shop with as many cars as we have, we're essentially working one car on top of another. You know, it'd be awesome if we didn't have to do it like this.
The guys really have a room crunch. I guess I'll just have to keep on hiring young, skinny mechanics.
This is horrible.
Scotty's working on a Plymouth Belvedere. It's a beautiful car. Love these old Belvederes, muscle car era, classic 60s styling. You know, take one of these little two-door, lightweight cars, throw a big motor in it, and you have yourself a hot rod. We did a compression test and a leak down test, found a cylinder that was pretty dead. So Scotty's pulling it out. He's gonna put it on a stand and take this motor apart.
This client, he seems to drive his car fairly hard. He probably felt some power loss, heard some unusual noises. Best thing to do for that situation is pull the engine out of the car and start digging.
Scotty's been here with us for about a year. You know, when we get somebody new in, we say, okay, you got to start at the beginning. This isn't your everyday garage that's working on the new stuff.
But that's why this shop is such a good challenge. It exposes me to the stuff that I've never seen before. Right now, I'm just taking off the rocker covers, making sure I can get a better look inside the engine, and seeing that there's some sludge buildup. That should not be.
A lot of moisture. And then when Scotty pulled the head off, we found out that the head gasket was pushed right out.
Ooh, real bad blown head gasket.
Oh.
Bad.
Well, there's our issue.
Yeah, that's definitely
We just
what
gotta
it
figure
is.
out why.
So now we're gonna be checking the heads and the block. We're gonna check them for straightness, making sure that they're okay.
To check the straightness of the cylinder blocks and the cylinder heads, we use a straight edge and a feeler gauge. If we can get the feeler gauge between the two, there's a problem in that spot.
Nothing.
That's good.
Whoa, did you just went in?
Oh, yeah.
See?
Yeah. Unfortunately, the block itself looks like it's warped.
You think it needs to be decked?
I believe so.
Okay.
Decking the block means that we are gonna take the top of the cylinders and we're gonna get them machined all the way across.
At this point, we have to send it to an engine shop and get them to make sure that the mating surfaces, they're nice and clean and flat. And when it comes back, it should be ready to go back together.
So the 56 Jag XK came in. The customer has two of them, a 56 and a 57. They come to us every few years because, unfortunately, I don't think they drive them enough. We do some work, they get them back. I think they enjoy them a little bit, and then they get stored for a season. So this Jaguar squishy brake pedal, suspect that it's some rust in the system. It's got wheels, drive it. Because if you don't, they rust. So I got it opened up and found some rust in the lines and in the master cylinder and the reservoir. All the top was rusted, the cap seal was no good, all the bottom had rust all over it. If there's rust at the top where you put the fluid in, every time you push that brake pedal, it's pushing it through all the lines. Then the longer it sits, the more rust forms. It's not a good thing, because now it's back in the shop, right? Got all the parts degreased, cleaned, prepped, painted. Now, if there is a leak somewhere, I'll see it right away, because the brake fluid will eat the paint right off it. So now I can start getting the master cylinder back in.
Oh, for Christ's sake.
No, I'm laying on a creeper. I'm trying to get my arm up there and hold the bolt and get everything lined up.
Bastard. Ah.
Things don't always go perfect.
Okay, now we're back to wrestling with this little bugger. Oh.
Yeah, mechanics actually need to have some degree of physical fitness, simply because if they don't, they can find themselves in some fairly embarrassing situations, like generally stuck in a car. That happens when somebody's underneath the dashboard with their arms up and they keep on maneuvering their body, maneuvering it until their ass is on the edge of the seat and their legs are dangling in the back of the car. And then when they try to get out, they can't. And nobody's gonna help them.
Uh-oh.
Some of the spots you get in are really tight. Just about have to take up yoga to get in some of these places.
Sometimes you pretty well have to be a contortionist. I'd like to be a skinny young mechanic again, but unfortunately I'm a little older, fatter guy, so trying to get into some of these positions isn't the easiest. That is tight.
Usually the younger guys can get the job done.
Under we go. Ow. That really hurt.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a preferred physical size for a mechanic, but I mean, in some cases, small and wiry is better than short and stout. Short and stout can get you into trouble.
This is showing off one of your better sides.
Morning, Dave.
Morning.
Back in business. So now we got our
Reservoir in. And I just broke the line.
Well, we got the engine back and reinstalled the entire lower end. Basically, the motor has gone for its machining. We've decked the block face as well as the head face, so the mating surfaces are nice, flat, and true. Next step is get her back into the car. Getting these engines back into position to drop them into the car is a two-man job. It's 600 pounds swinging off an engine crane. It's a precarious situation, to say the least.
Clear on that side?
Big, heavy piece of metal. It doesn't want to go where you want it to go, and most of the time, it puts up a fight.
Okay, then you tilt it. There you go, see?
Yeah. It's only got a certain place it can go, right? And once you take it out and separate it, it kind of just falls out of alignment. And once it falls out of alignment, it's just a matter of wiggling the tube back and forth.
Oh, ooh. My shoulder just cramped up.
You gotta start doing yoga, bud.
Oh, man. When you want to drop this. All right, give me a sec.
I gotta bore my leg too.
Well, this is pretty much already in. Oh, yeah. She's almost flush. Well, that looks about right.
Yeah, the brakes are still a little spongy.
Jump on in and we'll see how it fires.
So I got the new line installed on the master cylinder, topped up, bled the brakes. Time to go for a test drive and see how we did. These Jaguars were Le Mans winners, 51, 53. They'd have the car set up and you'd have to run across the track and start your car. Then you'd start racing, but a lot of the race was getting to your car first and maybe getting that little bit of an advantage. It's a 24-hour race. A team of guys would take turns and push it hard for the 4 or 5 hours you had to drive it. No power steering, no power brakes. I'm sure they were totally exhausted when they got out. Eventually, somebody's going to be in that situation where they will have to do a panic stop. And that's when you'll find out if you got a bad brake line. When you put so much pressure on it at once, the weakest spot's going to let go. Tried a little bit of a panic stop, but had to get 2 good pumps to get them to really lock up. That's unacceptable. It should be there the first time. You shouldn't be the second time. It's like the back brakes are locking up a lot quicker than the fronts, so I'm thinking that's why we got the spongy pedal still. I'm pretty sure it's just adjustment, because if it was anything worse, I would be losing brake fluid and then eventually have no brakes. Not always a home run every time.
Got to get the motor back into the Belvedere, and just gonna give it a fire. Make sure that it's nice and quiet, and then hopefully everything went back together good. Okay, well, let's jump on in, and we'll crank her.
You ready?
Yep.
Just let her run for a second. Your oil pressure staying high, 60, 70.
Yeah.
Sound like you might be advancing through hair.
Yeah.
Just gonna have to tweak the timing a little bit.
You got a little chirp there from your belt.
I like
Just
that.
a little bit. Sounds pretty good. Choke came off nice.
It sounded really good. I mean, it didn't even barely crank over. It was awesome.
All right, shut her down. No leaks, no drips, no drops.
Oil pressure shot straight up.
No header gasket leak anymore.
No. The last things that we have to do are add a little bit more tension to the alternator belt here and make sure we get the belt squeal completely taken care of. And then just have to set the final timing, make sure it's where it needs to be. So I'm gonna use Ronnie as a guide through all of this just because he's worked with carburetors and he has an ear for the sounds that should be coming out of a motor and for the sounds that shouldn't.
With this engine, getting the timing set perfect, you need to dial back the timing light.
For me, it'll be a little bit of a learning experience to deal with timing and a timing light. You don't really mess around with timing in new cars. They take care of it all by themselves.
See it? How is it crank? It's very important to get the timing right. It's the amount of degrees before top dead center that spark happens. So you advance the timing, you're actually moving the timing away from top dead center, but giving it more lead. So it keeps things burning faster. Timing light's nothing but a strobe light. It gets hooked up to the engine on #1 cylinder. So every time #1 cylinder fires, the timing light flashes. So you can see exactly where that cylinder is firing against the timing mark. I'd like to set the timing at, say, 3,500 RPM. I want about 34 degrees of timing. So I set it to 34 degrees. I rev the engine up and wait for that zero to line up correctly. The more you advance the timing, the more power you can make to a certain point. Every engine's different, but I like to put as much timing as you possibly can get in to make the most power that you can make. Okay, let me get a screwdriver. Now, even a stock motor, you can bump the factory spec up maybe 4 or 5 degrees and give yourself some more power. Maybe even up to 10 degrees more timing. But it's more sensitive to the fuel then. So you'd have to run a premium fuel in it if you're going to be playing around with your timing. Good. The timing's good right there. Got it set at about 34 degrees at about 3,400 RPM, so put the hood on the car and take it for a drive.
But I have a tech up here right now. He's looking for brake adjusters for a 1956 XK. Doesn't exist anymore.
On my test drive, I did kind of a panic stop and I got full lock in the back, nothing on the front. Well, I should be getting all 4 wheels locking up.
But as soon as I click it up a couple of tabs, it just falls right back to the original position. Just got to figure out how to get it to click up, like one click, and stay there.
Further investigation, I noticed that the little teeth that they're supposed to click into are worn out. Here's our piece. You can see the teeth, the grooves are pretty well rounded off. There's not enough to hold it. They're all worn out. It's a 1956 car. Stuff wears out. So now I'm on the hunt to try and find 4 of these bars so I can adjust the brakes so the car will stop. And Dan the man. Need some Jaguar parts.
What year is that one?
56 XK.
This is everything related to the braking
2
system.
pages, that's it?
That's it. We've got none.
They don't have any?
No. Hi, Owen. It's Dan calling from the Guild again. I have a tech up here right now. He's looking for 4 brake adjusters for a 1956 XK. That's what I thought too, because I just did a quick look and I can't find anything.
Is he looking or talking?
Yeah, exactly. Really? No, it's the fronts, right?
Yep.
Yeah, fronts.
So the bendy bars and then the spring lock tabs.
Yeah, he said something about the bendy bars. I know that's not the correct term. Okay, that would be awesome. All right, thank you. You too. Bye. They don't make reproduction ones anymore, so you have to find an XK120 and buy the full brake assembly for the front because no one's gonna want to separate those adjusters from an actual brake assembly because then they have a useless brake assembly that they can't sell.
And there's just hundreds and hundreds of those sitting around waiting to be bought, right?
Yep. Yeah. Is there any way you could like re-groove them?
It's not really that simple. They gotta be the right size and the teeth have to be right and for the little springs to lock into it.
Okay. Well, I'll take one off and show it to Al. Like they say, what is common today is rare tomorrow.
Yeah.
Not quite there. I think we're gonna need something a little more aggressive.
Feels all right. I was expecting a muscle car to be a little bit more.
So Al in the metal shop, I refer to him as Professor Bunsen Honeydew. Hola!
Hey, how's it going?
What you think's unfixable, he can always come up with a solution and try and make it work. All the teeth are worn out.
Brad just brought in a brake adjustment bar off of a 56 Jag.
So there's gonna be 4 of these bars.
No problem. So I'm just gonna take a little jeweler's file and put the teeth back in old school style. And these are my little jeweler's files. They're German needle files. They're really nice for getting in places and shaping things up. There we go. Now they're all looking consistent. The thing about a lot of these old cars is the older they get, the less of them there are, and goofy little things like this brake adjustment bar aren't really a big deal, and so they're harder to find. Pull it back, have it click, 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 click. Yep, there we go. Now it locks in place. Perfect. Okay. So now we do that 3 more times, and good as used.
So we're gonna take the Belvedere out. We're gonna see how this 408 stroker works this time. Scott's coming along with me for the test drive. He's done probably 90% of the work on this.
This is my first test drive at the Guild. It'll be a bit nerve-wracking because this was an engine rebuild, essentially.
So we're gonna take it out. We're gonna see how he made out. We got some old pressure. We got some charging.
I'm always worried whenever I go on a test drive of a car that I've done that me being in the car will bring karmic retribution of some sort, and the test drive will all go wrong.
Oh, she's got a little bit of kick to her.
Goes a little to the right.
That was nice, though. Helped me change lanes.
This being the first one I've ever been in, what surprised me with classics is just how comfy they were to sit in. You sit in those seats, you kind of just sink into them. The whole car kind of sits over bumps. It floats. But that she gets on her good.
The Alta's staying together, no smoky. That's the main concern.
Yeah. It was a bit of a treat to see just how different they are compared to the newer stuff. But this one, when it cruises along, it just sits nice and steady, consistent revs. It's just all-around good performer car. Feels all right. I was expecting a muscle car to be a little bit more.
Well, at 30, jerky. So this is your cruising. Scott really enjoyed the ride. Looked like he had a little white knuckle action going when I let it go a couple of times there.
Well, 30 to 70, pretty quick.
Oh, I'll give her a good break in anyway. Everything seems to be working good. I'm happy. Happy.
If that's the case, then I am happy too.
You got to drive it to make sure that the customer's going to be able to drive it. Okay, she went a little sideways there.
A little.